بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Qur'an wa Durra, the jewels of the Qur'an and its pairs. We have reached verse 103. Inshallah, we'll read 103 to 107 of Surah An-Nisa, of chapter on women. The last reading stopped at verse 96. This is really the Imam Al-Ghazali selection, and we have about 6 verses that were not selected. Not that we know the verses why Imam Ghazali chose these verses, and of course why he did not choose the other ones, but simply to pave the way between 96 and 103, so practically 97 all the way to 102. What do we have? We do have an interesting still. We talk about migrating for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exerting effort, the exemption for the weak men, women, and children who did not migrate at the time, who were Muslims, who did hide their Islam. They could have migrated, but not everyone is capable of doing what's right under the circumstances. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is right to hope that Allah will pardon them, for Allah is ever pardoning, all forgiving. Those who migrate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find many safe havens, يجد في الأرض مراغما كثيرا وسعة, and bountiful resources throughout the earth. Those who leave their homes and die while immigrating to Allah and His Messenger, their reward has already been secured with Allah. This is one. Do think about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which was narrated by Umar al-Khattab, I think. إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته الله ورسوله، من كانت هجرته إلى دنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. Actions are considered, are weighed according to intentions. So those who migrate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the sake of His Messenger, then that's what it is. It's going to be as such. But those who migrate for the sake of a worldly gain, or a woman, someone who migrates because he's simply following a woman, it's not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, that's what it is. Hijratu ila ma hajar ilayhi is going to be as such. So it cannot be considered for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if one migrates, travels, changes address today. But remember, we said this before, after Mecca was conquered, لا هجرة بعد الفتح, there was no migration required, no hijrah. And what we have, the form of hijrah that is required now and practically continuously, because hijrah is moving from A to Z, from a state of being into another, and the best thing is to you are abandoning something when you are leaving something. The best thing is to abandon bad action into good action, to abandon old bad habits for new ones that the Islamic worldview is calling for. So one should think about the goal, his or her goal in this life, and whether it is in line with the Islamic worldview. Now, if you uh, whenever you start something and you don't finish it, and your intention was really for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not worry, inshallah. Your reward is secured. Here mentions death, any reason that stops you, any good reason that stops you, anything that interrupts really your work, your intention is as good, inshallah, and will be right on your record, of course, in the hereafter. If you do travel through the land, وإذا ضربتم في الأرض فليس عليكم جناح أن تقصروا من الصلاة إن خفتم أن يفتنكم الذين كفروا إن الكافرين كانوا لكم عدوا مبينا. When you travel through the land, it is permissible for you to shorten the prayer. We have an interesting discussion amongst scholars. And of course, many people highlight the distance that to shorten the prayer, then it has to be a distance of some would say 81 kilometers, some would say 85 kilometers, others would say simply when you leave the buildings, when you leave the houses, when you leave the inhabited places, and you are already literally outside of town, and you have already started your travel, then you could shorten. That's what they would say. But the interesting discussion, though this is important, the interesting discussion is about the reason. Some scholars would say that it has to be a good reason. You cannot really travel for to do something leisurely, or to do something wrong, and you still shorten the prayer. There are those who would say, yes, you can. I will get to that, inshallah. But the good reasons for traveling, they said some such as travel for obedience, worship, fulfilling religious obligations such as the jihad or pilgrimage or hajj or umrah, the minor pilgrimage, seeking knowledge, أو طلب علم, أو زيارة. The ziyarah here, you are visiting as scholars, you are visiting, fulfilling and the notion of bir, صلة رحم أو غير ذلك, something good. But there are those who said no, because the verse is general, then it's any travel would justify the shortening the prayer. It has been attributed to Abi Hanifa and Sufyan al-Thawri, Dawood al-Zahiri, والله سبحانه وتعالى أعلى وأعلم. This is the but they have differed with the Jumhur. Most scholars would say no. If it's something for the wrongdoing, here it does say, they said حتى لو خرج لقطع الطريق, like to be a highway thief and scaring people. One might say, would they pray? They might. So, and one should not basically tell people who do wrong things, do not pray because you do such and such a thing. Maybe the prayer will prohibit them, will stop them, will change their course. For verily the prayer does advocate internally also. It pushes in the direction of that which is good, inshallah. Okay. So I've mentioned this simply because of the usually not non-discussion. Most people would discuss the distance and will ignore the importance of the reason why they are traveling. And if they pray and the Prophet ﷺ is with them, then in this context, the prayer in a state of fear, there are enemies around the corner, then they would. It is said that they will part of the community, Muslim community, would pray with the Prophet ﷺ, and another part uh, will be watching, uh, watching in the sense of if there's a need to defend the Muslims. Not all of them should abandon their weapons, it says, and engage in prayer. Otherwise, they might be attacked while in that state. Okay. Unless there is, they would not be blamed if they lay aside their weapons when overcome by heavy rain or illness. But take precaution. Indeed, Allah has prepared a humiliating punishment for the disbelievers. If you are done with your prayer, when the prayers are over, فإذا قضيتم الصلاة فاذكروا الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبكم. So this is the first verse in today's reading. فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. When the prayers are over, remember Allah, whether you are standing, sitting, or lying down. But when you are secure, establish regular prayers. Indeed, performing prayers is a duty on the believers at the appointed times. Remember this context. Immediately before that, we talk about a context where the community is apprehensive, and there's conflict, there's possibility of war, there's fear, and they could shorten the prayer. You have all these concessions, if you will, but nevertheless, even in this context, there is Salat al-Khawf, praying in a state of fear, the prayer of fear. Without going into details about Salat al-Khawf, about how people would move as described, and whether the enemy is in the Qibla or not, and all these things. But let's basically highlight the issue. Once you are done with your formal prayer, let's say the 5 daily prayers, which you could still join at one point under certain circumstances, noon and afternoon, or evening and night prayers, the 4 rakat would become 2 and 2, for example, the noon and afternoon, or 3 and 2, evening and night prayer. The dawn prayer will always be on its own, never joined with anything else. Here it highlights dhikr. In all states, whether you are standing, qiyaman, sitting, qu'udan, or laying down, وعلى جنوبكم. Because the dhikr, unlike the formal prayer, when you stand in in rows, straight lines, facing one specific direction. The dhikr, you could be facing preferably the qibla, of course, but no, you could basically doing whatever you need to do and still do the dhikr ample times. فاذكر الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. This highlights the importance of dhikr. The forms of dhikr, of course, with the recitation of the Qur'an, it's dhikr. Things that are mentioned in the Quran or something that the Prophet ﷺ taught us as forms of dhikr. The supplication, it's a form of dhikr. Pondering upon the universe also is a form of dhikr because it leads in one direction. والذي يذكر الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. You just add to this and they think, they ponder upon the creation of the heavens and earth, the universe. ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. Here you have a form of dhikr. Subhanak, Subhanallah. The recitation is dhikr, the pondering is dhikr, because thinking about the signs that point to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'd reach the conclusion, it's not in vain. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. In fact, if you face the enemy, it's a situation where dhikr is also recommended. But if you reach a state of security, tranquility, inner peace, فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة. It means if you reach that state of security, then establish prayer, meaning establish regular prayer. It's not going to be shortened or the normal prayer, not Salat al-Khawf. There is no fear. Indeed, performing prayers is a duty on the believers at the appointed times. إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. Dawn prayer is literally from dawn until sunrise, but you don't wait until literally sunrise. And dawn is basically when you see that you could now decipher the horizon. If it's really night, you cannot really separate the sky from the horizon, especially on moonless nights. Noon is from the time the sun is perpendicular on earth. And by the way, this is not 12 o'clock every day. It does change. Okay, this is very important for us to remember. Different times of the year. Just to give you an example, there could be today. For example, it was 11 in Jerusalem at Al-Aqsa Mosque. It was 11:41 noon. The call for prayer was at 11:41. So zenith is not 12 o'clock throughout the year. We might think that it is. No, it's not. And just a couple of weeks ago, it was less. So it was 11:30. It was 11:20. When the day is short, that's also the midday is also shorter. So it is from the time the sun is perpendicular on Earth until an object uh, until the shade of an object is twice its height. And the afternoon prayer is from that moment until sunset. The afternoon is the only one that is not a cosmic event. Dawn, sunrise, zenith, sunset, night. These are cosmic events, but not the afternoon. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that it's when the until the when the time when the length of the shade of an object is twice its height. Then the evening prayer is, of course, from sunset until the fall of night, and then the night prayer goes on uh, practically until dawn, though some scholars would encourage one to perform the prayer uh, earlier. There are times that one should not, or it is detested to pray. Uh, at sunrise, zenith, and sunset, these are times when one is encouraged not to pray. List that at least one might say that it could have been the case that people might think Muslims are praying towards the sun. No, we don't. And all these myths that people uh, misinformation, really, not only myths about Muslims worshipping the moon. This is why we have a crescent on top of the minarets at mosque, or the domes at mosque. And this is relatively speaking, a new phenomenon in the history of Islam. That was it's simply picking up a sign, a symbol, and this is why the a crescent appears on many the flag of many Islamic countries. But no, we don't worship the moon, and also we don't worship the pig, and so we don't spare it, we don't eat it because we worship it. It is prohibited. It is prohibited. It was prohibited for the Jews. It's prohibited for us, and it should have remained prohibited also for the Christians. So the prayers have uh, performing prayers at appointed times, and one is encouraged to like if it's noon, one is better. It's better to perform the prayer as early as possible, meaning don't postpone things until you're almost minutes away from the afternoon prayer unnecessarily. Okay, if you have a necessity, say that a surgeon was going to. It is a planned. It is a planned surgery, one after the other, and immediately in the, let's say at like in today's according to today's timing, there is a there's an operation at 1 p.m. and it's going to be 6-7 hours long, and that means that you cannot leave the operation room and go and pray the afternoon prayer, and definitely not the evening prayer even. In this case, you pray the noon and the afternoon ahead of time without shortening, and you pray later on the evening and the night prayer without shortening the night prayer. There are many issues that one can talk about. Do not falter in pursuit of the enemy. If you are suffering, they too are suffering, but you can hope to receive from Allah what they can never hope for, and Allah is all knowing, all wise. Do not falter in the pursuit of the enemy. If you talk about pain and suffering, people have pain. You basically suffer the way they suffer, and the only thing is uh, it encourages people to have resilience, um, not to postpone things. And Muslims have hopes to receive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what the disbelievers do not have the same hope. Again, it has to be contextualized. Otherwise, how do you explain the fact that hopefully we'll always be able to enjoy that social fabric, a peaceful social fabric. Think about the verses in Surah Al-Ma'idah, where the food of the book is food of the people of the book is lawful for us, and our food is lawful for them. Uh, Marriage, the maternal family. So Muslim family, but the on the maternal side, it could be the people of the book. We talk about chaste woman, the possibility of doing business within the society. It's very important to remember that the our societies in the Middle East have been um, inclusive. If we talk about the convivencia, it's really an Islamic paradigm. We have lived together and we are willing to live together. The issue is the injustice that befell us, especially from the time when modern colonialism began unfolding, and the rest of the story is known to you. So, the last couple of hundred years or so. Indeed, we have sent you down the book, the Qur'an, to you, to the Prophet ﷺ. إنا أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this book to the Prophet ﷺ to judge between people by means of what Allah has shown you. So do not be an advocate for the deceitful and seek forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, Allah is all forgiving, all merciful. واستغفر الله أن الله كان غفور رحيما. ولا تجادل, and this is the last verse in this session. ولا تجادل على الذين يختانون أنفسهم إن الله لا يحب إن الله لا يحب من كان خوانا أثيما. Do not advocate for those who wrong themselves. Surely Allah does not like those who are deceitful, sinful. Those who wrong themselves, those who deceive really themselves, those who one would be surprised to find that they might the Prophet ﷺ, and this is an issue about the Prophet ﷺ. This is the ulama al-usul. Usul al-fiqh in Islam is almost like the philosophy of law. They said that the Prophet ﷺ could rule by way of reasoning, by ijtihad, لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله. And also, it has been mentioned in both the Bukhari and Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ did hear noise in front of his room, and he went outside and he told them, I am but a human being, ألا إنما أنا بشر, and I judge, I rule, وإنما أقضي بنحو مما أسمع, and I judge according to what I hear. And one of you might be more eloquent with his proof compared to the others. فأقضي له, that one might use his eloquence and to to make that he could make his case convincing, though he shouldn't be the one. He's not the one who has the right, but the Prophet ﷺ would judge for him. But if he does give him something that belongs to the other person, because we talk about at least the two parties, the Prophet ﷺ said that if I do rule for him, and it's the right of another Muslim, it is really a piece of hellfire. Then it is up to him to carry it or to abandon it. And this is what ultimately you judge. You judge according to what could be observed. The evidence according to the physical evidence could be whatever proofs that could be used, as in courts. A judge would listen to this and would listen to that. So inshallah, we have highlighted some of the meanings surrounding these verses. In the next reading, we begin inshallah with verse 110. We have quite few verses. Inshallah, we'll cover these all the way to 116 if we can بإذن الله عز وجل. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.